Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the streets outside your window are completely silent. No markets, no laughter. The only movement is the slow creep of carts collecting bodies from the road. To understand how this happened, we have to look at Europe in the mid-1300s. The continent was thriving. Merchant networks linked cities from Italy all the way to the edges of Asia, creating a busy, highly connected international economy. But that exact connectivity became a fatal flaw. An invisible pathogen hitched a ride on these trade routes, moving silently from port to port alongside the spices and textiles. Society had unknowingly constructed a highly efficient global distribution network for a biological threat that no one at the time could even perceive, let alone fight. The devastation started small. This is a microscopic view of Yersinia pestis, a rod-shaped bacteria capable of destroying the human immune system. The bacteria's primary carriers were tiny. They infected fleas, multiplying rapidly inside the insect's digestive tracts and creating a concentrated biological payload ready for delivery. These infected fleas needed a host, and they found a highly mobile one, the black rat. Seeking food and warmth, these rats scurried into the cargo holds of docked merchant vessels. In 1347, those ships set sail for Europe. The crews had no idea they were ferrying thousands of lethal, infected stowaways toward the most densely populated cities in the world. A microscopic anomaly deep inside a flea's stomach escalated into an international crisis, powered entirely by routine human commerce. When the ships docked at European ports, the cargo was unloaded, and so were the rats. They scattered quickly into the crowded, unsanitary streets of 14th century cities. When the disease made the jump to humans, the initial signs were deceptive. Victims came down with what felt like a standard fever, masking the severity of their condition. But the deception didn't last. Within hours, the fever gave way to intense pain as victims developed massive black swellings in their lymph nodes, known as buboes. Once the buboes appeared, the timeline compressed violently. Most victims succumbed to the infection and died within mere days of the first swelling. Medieval medicine was completely blind to germ theory. Without any knowledge of bacteria, the best physicians of the era could offer no cure. The human body was left entirely defenseless. The volume of casualties rapidly overwhelmed city infrastructure. Cemeteries filled to capacity immediately, forcing desperate survivors to excavate massive communal trenches to bury their dead. In the absence of scientific understanding, terror filled the void. People searched frantically for an explanation, blaming the outbreak on poisoned air, unaligned planets, or divine punishment. This absolute fear dissolved basic human bonds. People locked themselves inside their homes, refusing to emerge. In many instances, families abandoned their own sick relatives to die alone. Left unchecked, panic bred violence. Desperate communities began looking for scapegoats, leading to the severe persecution, hunting, and mass slaughter of minority groups across the continent. The biological death toll was massive, but the secondary tragedy was the evaporation of empathy. Basic social order collapsed under the weight of sheer self-preservation. This chart shows the estimated population of Europe across the 14th century. In just a handful of years, the total headcount plunged by nearly 50% as tens of millions of people perished. The localized impact was even more extreme. Across the countryside, entire towns and villages were completely depopulated, leaving empty houses to be slowly reclaimed by the forest. With so few workers left alive, the survivors suddenly found they could demand higher wages and more personal freedom from the ruling nobility. At the same time, when the public saw that neither prayer nor the clergy could stop the dying, the absolute social authority once held by the church began to erode. The trauma embedded itself into the minds of those who remained. For centuries, European art returned to this same theme, the dance of death, where skeletons lead people of all ranks to the grave, as a reminder that no one is safe. Even today, the imagery of this era remains a quiet, persistent reminder of how quickly the foundations of our world can be tested by a single, unseen organism. A bacterium dismantled the social order of the 14th century in a matter of years. The speed at which civilization fell apart remains its most haunting legacy. Do you think humanity today could survive